Well, I didn't expect to be at this point, but here we are. So I did some tests on this with compressed air and found that the air was leaking out through the exhaust. So no amount of sealing things up or turning the engine would solve that. So I pulled the exhaust pipe off and stuck my finger in there and felt, and sure enough I could feel some air coming out from somewhere. So it had to be the exhaust valve, is my conclusion on that. So I pulled the cylinder head off and cleaned a bunch of nuts and crap from in between these two heads that apparently the varmints had stored in there, which I didn't realize were in there. I couldn't see them. And piston looks okay. I have it to top dead center right now to keep anything from getting in there, but the cylinder bores are super clean and shiny. At least this one is, which is wonderful. So there's no damage in there. Piston looks fine, and the problem is not on this side. We did find the problem, and here's the head removed, and it was the exhaust valve. So I'm not sure what the lighting's going to show here, but let me see if I can prop this up here just a moment. Okay, we're back. So I'm going to shine my other light down in here on this exhaust valve, and hopefully you can see that that is not perfectly round, and you can see this gap here at the end on your left, that valve is somehow damaged. And it looks like, see that semicircle there, it probably was getting a hot spot there and on its way to becoming burnt. So my conclusion is that you may recall when I got this bike, the tensioner had slipped for the timing chain, and I never thought about it much because everything seemed to turn over and work correctly, but that would allow your two timing gears for your camshafts to get out of whack, and possibly enough that this valve, the timing was off and it was open when the piston came up and bent that edge. Because that there's no mark on the piston on this side, it's all old carbon and stuff. It must have happened, a long time ago, because it didn't happen during this ride, because there should be a fresh witness mark there for that. Now, it did run, as we know, because I was riding it, but the left side always had an odd pulse to it when I had this thing running and idling. If you held your hand over the exhaust on each side, you get a nice, good pulsation out of the right side, but the left side was different. It was, I guess, weaker, we would say. And I kind of wondered why that was, and I was under my assumption that the carburetor maybe wasn't balanced or set properly or something like that. So I was on the process of trying to tune that and figure out if that was what was the problem. But now we know what the problem really was. It was this valve that was damaged, and it was probably leaking a little bit, and then as I rode it, it most likely got hotter and either burned some of it away or just distorted it enough that now it's got a complete and utter leak and compression is completely gone. I did do a compression test on both sides, and this side was 0. The other side was, it's kind of hard to do when you're kicking over a bike like this, but I got between 80 and 100, so, I think that's kind of probably where it needs to be. Higher would be better, but given the conditions here, I think that's probably accurate. enough. And the main point was to see if both sides were the same, and obviously it wasn't. So we need to get a new valve. And in the process of doing this, we've got these push rod seals, which are hard as rock and basically falling apart. There were some fragments of one laying over here. Actually, I think you can see, yeah, there's what's left of one there. And you can tell they were leaking for a while before, you know, this catastrophe ever happened. It's all slimy in there, you can tell. So then the question becomes, do we do both sides? Do we just do the one side that's got a problem? I don't know. Points to ponder while I think about ordering the parts. I mean, I'll probably order the parts for both sides anyway. But, so there it is. We found it. It's not a huge catastrophe, thank goodness. It's not in the bottom end. That was my concern, is that it might have had damaged a piston or something of that nature, but it's just a valve. Valves are replaceable. I'm going to have to try to get the valve out and see if the guide has any damage. Don't know if this is, you know, the stem could be bent on this valve, which would have potentially damaged the guide. So we're going to have to concern ourselves with that a little bit, but that's what we found. So it also gives me the opportunity to clean this head up and make it look a little nicer. So we'll continue onward, try to get that valve out. I don't know if my valve spring compressor tool will work or not, and see what that looks like, and then set about ordering parts. Some bonus content. Someone had asked me about the battery box and how that had turned out. They saw that it was back on the bike, but I never really showed the completed product. So here's a shot of it. Throwing a little extra light on it so you can see, because it's black, but just painted it with some semi-gloss black paint, and it came out pretty decent as far as the exterior goes. You know, there's a few little marks in there, but not too worried about that. It gives it a little character. The inside is what was really terrible. The other side doesn't look too bad, but this is the side that was really rusty and perforated everywhere. And this is essentially just a lot of auto body filler to fill in all the pores and pits and all that. And you can tell here at the bottom, it doesn't look great. The idea was to make it look better than it did and fill up the holes. But I didn't go crazy with it. Getting in here to sand it after you've applied the filler is a process in itself. So it's a part that nobody ever really sees anyway. This down here was completely gone, and I just used JB Weld to reconstruct this lower portion of this brace. No other real way to fix it that I could think of. We did have to drill out this broken off stud. It was not coming out, no way, no how. You can tell I didn't exactly get it centered, but it works, and it's properly threaded for British standard. And then the cover came out pretty decent. But this top, you can tell all the distortion on there from when it was made. I didn't realize that that was the top at the time I was having this painted, or I might have had them do something with it. But it's good enough for this project. So when it's on there, you can kind of see that. So it's a little bit of a Debbie Downer there. But that's what we got for the battery box, and I will put you on pause and show you the battery on the other side. All right, pay no attention to the wiring because it's kind of maybe temporary. But this is the battery side, and that's just a little 6-volt battery I got from Amazon. It's a sealed battery. Because of the amount of vibration that this thing will generate. I didn't want to put a regular battery in there because sometimes it can damage the plates and develop a crack or something like that. And we don't need any more acid leaks in this thing. So put this 6-volt in. I had to put these side terminal connectors on and then adapt it to the standard harness. And currently it's just, well, it's just taped up and you don't want to see what I have in there. But that was just to make it go and to do the testing on the electrical system. I did have to wedge it with some styrofoam to keep it from moving around, but it does fit behind the original brace just fine. So I'm not sure if there's a part number on there that you can see. I guess it's that NP 4.5. So if you're looking for a battery, this one does the trick.